It's me, Shauna, with Just Try to Be Nice. And this is actually a video that's been requested a lot. So, about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we went to this hibachi place over off of one of the roads. It doesn't matter what road it is, because you're probably not in the same city as me. But anyway, it was off of 51. And this lady came up to me and she's like, "You look so familiar to me. And I know you from somewhere." She was our waitress. And she's like, I know you from somewhere. I just can't quite figure it out. And I was like, yeah, I have one of those faces, you know. Yeah. And at that time, Haley was missing. So I didn't want to be like, yeah, I've been all over the news as well. Because then it just, well, why were you on the news? And it's just this big thing. And I was there with the girls. So I just played it off. And I was like, yeah, I just have a really familiar face. I get that a lot. And then as we were leaving, she pulled my arm to the side and was like, "Do you by any chance have a YouTube channel where you draw a Bible?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do actually." And she was like, "That's where I know you from." She's like, "I love your Bible videos. They are like amazing. Are you going to do more?" Because I've done the whole Bible. I did the Old Testament and the New Testament, but the ones that I've recorded up to this point were only the Old Testament. I haven't done any of the New Testament. So she was like, "Are you ever going to do the New Testament?" And I was like, "Yeah, but, you know, with Haley missing and all, like, I've got a lot going on right now. So, you know, I'll get back to it when I can." And I did. And I've done it. I have finished it. It is done. I did Revelations last night. So, holla! In 2012, took this on and was like, I'm going to do this. And I thought it would only take me a year. I literally was like, I can do this in a year. I can knock it out. It's no big deal. And I just finished it in February of 2019. So that will tell you how long it took me to actually do this. And a lot of it was just that, like, I had other things going on, or I had other projects going on, or like I wasn't in a good place where, like, you can't just make yourself create. You have to be in a place where you can create. So I finally did that. And so this is going to be the first video of the New Testament. Now, I'm sure you've all seen all this if you've watched all the other videos. Let's get to, it's right around here somewhere. There it is. It's that orange piece of paper right there. Okay, so there's Malachi and Zechariah from the end of the Old Testament. And real quick, so just side note, the New Testament was a lot harder to do for me than the Old Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are basically the same stories told about the same events by 4 different people. So it's very difficult for me, like in these books, I just picked one or more than like 1 or 2 verses that I thought were like really, really important. But all of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is important because it's like all of the miracles of Jesus are covered in there. Like all of the important stuff is in there. So I couldn't just pick like one Bible verse to do. So it was really difficult. And I ask a lot of people, like a lot of Bible people in my life, because I mean, I go to church, but I don't go to church regularly. And I'm more of like, if you've ever heard of like a soul practitioner when it comes to like witchcraft, like they practice witchcraft all by themselves. They don't have a coven. I'm more of a soul Christian person. Like I do like fellowship. I do like to be around other Christians, but I don't like to be around people. So the Christian part is nice, but the people part annoys the crap out of me. So I have a tendency to not stay with churches or to hang out with Christians for very long periods of time. So I went to a couple of my friends and I was like, hey, you know, I'm having a lot of trouble with doing the Gospels, and what would you advise? And nobody had any advice. And I'm like, of course. So prayed on it. And finally I decided that this is what I was going to do. I was going to go through and I was going to write down every single thing that happens in Matthew, every single thing that happens in Mark, every single thing that happens in John, so on and so on and so on. And then from there, if an event happened in Mark and Matthew, I crossed it off. And if an event only happened in Mark, I talked about it. If it only happened in John, I talked about it. If it only happened in Luke, I talked about it. So that's how I did it. I specifically broke down like which things only were told in which book, and that's where I came from. So it's a little all over the place. And it's not going to make a whole lot of sense because I did do what's in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but they're kind of meant to be read together, not like individually. And then also you can clearly see, what you can see is you can see my cat Bacon, who's not supposed to be on the table, who's like all about being up in this video right now. She's like, I love you, just let me be on the table. You're not allowed on the table, Bacon. Sorry. Anyway, so you can clearly see when I discovered Pinterest along the route. Because in 2012, I did not know about Pinterest. But in about 2014, 2015, I learned about some Pinterest. And so a lot of these are inspired from things that I found on Pinterest. A lot of them are t-shirt. And now, one of the things that I try very hard to do, and it is very difficult, but I do try very hard, is I don't try to steal other people's art, but I do steal art. So if it's a t-shirt design, I will trace it and I will put it in here because it's a t-shirt design, which is it's trademarked, but it's also for free consumption because it's on, like, you can see the t-shirt. You know what I'm saying? Like, stamps are another example of that. So if there was a stamp that I could buy and it had a flower on it that I really wanted, I wouldn't necessarily buy the stamp and I would just trace the flower. So if there's things in here that you see off of Pinterest, yes, absolutely. I'm not in any way trying to be like, yup, this was all me. I did all of this, because I didn't. A lot of it came from inspiration on Pinterest, and a lot of it came from coloring books. There's a lot of things in here where the girls had a coloring book, and I just took a picture from the coloring book and traced it in here and then worked around that. So you can definitely tell the difference in, like, my art and what I'm drawing. Like, this is me. Like, this is me drawing. Like, I drew, actually, I might have traced, no, I think I did draw that. I think I got the inspiration for that from a picture, but I did draw it. But then, like, you get into some of these, and like this, I did not draw this. This, I did not draw. That was from a wedding thing on Pinterest, and it was like a silhouette for a wedding invitation, and I just traced it and put it in there. So if you see stuff and you're like, oh yeah, no, I recognize that, that's plagiarism, I'm not trying to take credit for anything. This is not a book that I'm ever going to publish. This is not a book that's ever going to be out there. This is just for me and for my family, specifically for my girls. This is not anything I'm ever going to try to profit off of. So I want to be very clear about that a lot of these ideas in the New Testament come from Pinterest and were not mine. And I did not credit everybody because that's not what the book's about. The book is not about publishing it and making money and crediting whoever. No. It's for me and my family's personal use only. So I want to be very clear about that. So when you go into the New Testament, the first thing that you see, and let me see if I can show you where, oh, it's going to get a little complicated here trying to find where the, wait, it's the red one, right? Okay, yeah. So this is the Old Testament. And, hold on, let me see. Is there a way to mark it so I don't have to flip back to it? Just bear with me, sorry. Okay. So here's the Old Testament, and this is like, this is the Garden of Eden, and that's Noah, that's Adam and Eve getting kicked out, that's Noah's Ark, that's the Tower of Babel, there's I can't think of it now, the giant, David and Goliath, and then there's the snake, there's Moses in the basket, there's Joseph in the hole, Mount Ararat, they were lost in the desert for 40 years, then there's Daniel 1 and 2, and then this is, I want to say Song of Songs, and then this is Kings 1 and 2. No, that's Psalms. That's Jonah and the whale. So, I mean, you get what I'm saying. Like, it's like the whole story of, like, all of the main points that happened in the Old Testament. And then in the middle, it's just like a definition of what testament means, so you'll understand, like, what it means when somebody has the Old and the New Testament. So the New Testament is very similar. It is a similar concept to the other one, where it is 3 wise men go visit Jesus. 30 years later, you've got the 12 disciples, then Jesus walks on water, then he does the Sermon on the Mount, then he feeds the 5,000 people with 1 fish and 1 loaf of bread, then he says to, above all else, love each other. I think this is when he gets killed. And then he rises from the dead, and then you've got the big dinner, the Last Supper. No. this is when he went to, that's when he rose Lazarus from the dead. My bad. And then that's the final supper. And then you've got him on the cross. And then he rose up again. And then this is everybody baptizing in his name. Then this is them sending out all of the letters, which is basically a lot of the New Testament is just letters to churches. It's like, hey, so you believe in Jesus too? Okay, well, I believe in Jesus too. So here's what you need to do if you really believe in Jesus. So a lot of letters go out. And then John has a vision, and then Revelation happens. So similar concept where you've just got like all of it in comic book form, similar. And then this is what it says, there are 400 years of silence that take place between the Old and the New Testament. Control of God's people changed hands many times over this period, including the Persians, the Macedonians, also the Egyptians, as well as the Syrians, and the Maccabees, and then finally the Romans. The Greek and Roman influence is very clear in the New Testament because many of the disciples were raised in Greece, including Paul. So this is basically just a synopsis on what happened between these books and these books. All right? And I almost want to stop it here, but that doesn't seem fair because, like, all the people that really wanted to, like, see this. But I kind of, like, I don't like my videos to go over, and I don't really know where a good place to stop would be. So, but maybe I'll just do one of the books. Which one is the first one? Hold on, which one? Which one? Okay, so, yeah. Yeah, so this is Matthew. Matthew's the first one, and you've got the three kings that go. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem, they came wise men from the east, blah, 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 blah. So this is when Jesus was born. You've got the three wise men. And then you've got the Beatitudes, which was also only in Matthew, which I really like the Beatitudes. Like, they were a big thing in my group homes growing up. Even though state and church were supposed to be separate, they were not. And then here's the parables of Jesus. So you've got this one, and then you've got this one, and then the man who builds his house on rock as opposed to sand, and then you've got the, oh man, this was a good one for me. And okay, in one of my group homes, an Elida home, we had pastor, her name was Julie Klein, and she was amazing. And, like, let me be honest with you, it's really hard to be a preacher at a group home for troubled kids because kids are all jaded. Like, most people don't get jaded about God until they're in their 20s or their 30s. But you've got like 11-year-old kids who've seen stuff that adults couldn't handle, and you're trying to teach them about the love and the support of God. And they're sitting there going, well, where was God when this happened to me? And where was God when this happened to me? And I've never seen God. So it's very difficult. And Julie just did an amazing, amazing job of really reaching you with the word. And one of the things that we did was, Elida was a giant campus. It's like a huge there's acres of it. They have a corn maze every year. It's that big. It's huge. And so what she did was she gave us watermelon, which was a big deal because we got food, but we didn't always have like watermelon per se. So she brought a bunch of watermelon. She cut them all up, and we all got a bunch of watermelon. And then we walked around the different places on the land. So we spit our seeds out in the gravel on the driveway, and we spit our seeds out in the field where the corn maze is, and we spit our seeds out in like the junk pile by where the goats were, and then we spit our seeds out by the compost heap. And the lesson, of course, was wherever you sow your seeds, be careful of where you sow your seeds because they won't all grow. And let me tell you, fast forward a year and a half after we all, like 12 girls, spit all of their seeds out at the compost heap, that compost heap was overrun by watermelon. So any kids that now stay at that group home will have no trouble ever having watermelon because of us. Like, they have so much watermelon now, it's not even funny. But that was a really good lesson for me, and it really like made that parable specifically stand out. And that is a very important one. So that's for that. And then this is by their fruits you will know them. And then this is the, if you had 100 sheep and lost one, would you leave the 99 to find the one? And then this is one of my favorite ones too, because I love mustard seed. I used to have a mustard seed necklace, and it says, if you have the faith, if you have a mustard seed of faith, it will grow to be a great tree. And mustard seeds are super, 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 super tiny too. So that's the whole point. And then this is the Sermon on the Mount. That's Jesus. Those are all of his people. And then these are all of the important lessons that he taught. And then this is Matthew and John the Baptist, who who baptized Jesus. So, I mean, he's a pretty big deal because, you know, he baptized Jesus. So, oh, this is the book of Matthew. I added this page. That's what happened. That's what happened. That's what's throwing me off. I added this page and this page. It was just supposed to be those 2 pages, but then I got to the point where I was like, I can't fit it all on 2 pages. So I added pages. So then you've got Matthew, and I do believe these are Mark. Yeah, so I'm going to stop it there. So you've got Matthew, you've got John the Baptist who baptized Jesus, and then you've got the Sermon on the Mount where like all of the important, live simply, give more, expect less, you are the light of the world, let your light shine. Like these are really, really important points that Jesus really wanted to relay to people. And let's see, I did this one on 12:5 of 13. And then these were done, let's see if I can find a date. Yep, 11:9 of 13. So this was about the end of 2013, which is when I thought I would be done with the book. And if I'd only done the Old Testament, I would have been done with it. But, oh, the New Testament. And almost, I think this was a cross-stitch pattern. That's where I found this from. This was a cross-stitch pattern because you can see, like, how it's squared off like a cross-stitch would be. And again, not trying to steal anybody's art, but it's cross-stitch pattern. So it's, like, out there to be had, basically. So I hope you liked it. I hope you like this newer, more Pinteresty version, because like I'm pretty sure this was from a kid's. This was definitely from the kids' coloring book. I distinctly remember seeing that in the kids' coloring book, and I basically just took that page and traced it. That's all I did. I just traced it right on there and then colored it right on up. So there we go. We've got the new and it is coming. The rest of the books are coming, but I try really hard to keep my videos down to about 15-20 minutes because that's the average attention span of a YouTube viewer. I know that because I am an avid YouTube viewer myself. I watch 7 Days to Die videos all day long, and I really, really, really like to keep them at about 15 minutes. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Love you guys. Bye.